Welcome, folks. Welcome.
Hi.
Very excited to be chatting with Zelda Momoe on the podcast today.
Hello.
We forgot to do a audio check, but I think based on what I can see in the mixer, at least, we seem to be at a similar volume. So just to start, I'll introduce myself and the podcast, and then we'll let Momo introduce themselves. So I'm Tai Iwai, the host of the ASPEC podcast, and I myself am Arrow ASPEC and non-binary, they them pronouns, and in the community here, I host or help co-host a Ace and Arrow support group, which I've been doing for a couple of years now. And through that, I've developed a lot of, you know, I've come to learn a lot about both my own identity and just kind of the Ace and Arrow spectrums in general. We've had a lot of great discussions through that support group. And then last year, I participated in an Ace and Arrow raid train where I met so many wonderful people.
Yeah.
And that allowed me to kind of give me the spark to be like, there is not enough discussion about these issues on Twitch. Why not start a podcast? And from there, we started the ASPEC podcast. And here we are, 21 episodes in. I can't believe it. Welcome, everyone. Glad that you can make it tonight. And I'll let you introduce yourself, Momo.
Hi, everybody. Hi, my mods. I see you. I'm Zelda Momoe. You can call me Zelda Momo, Zelmo, like Elmo, or Zel or Mo for short, also works. My pronouns are she and they. I prefer she usually when I'm cosplaying, like other than my gender. They is usually preferred, but she is also fine. Um, I'm a professional graphic designer and a hobbyist cosplayer since 2006, mainly from JRPGs. And I've been streaming on Twitch technically since 2015, but not really doing too much until 2020 because what else were we going to do when everything locked down? I'm also Arab American and I'm in Upper New York. Chronically Ill, Ready to Chill, and my favorite series are Chrono Trigger and Cross, Drakengard and Nier, Dot Hack, Final Fantasy, Xenogears and Xenosaga, Zero Escape, Kodelka and Shadow Hearts, and obviously Zelda, because my name.
Of course. Absolutely. All awesome choices. So the first question kind of is about, discovering your ASPEC identity. And, we've talked about many times on the podcast that for many people, ASPEC identity can be a more nuanced and a little bit more difficult to pinpoint for a lot of
Hmm.
folks, owing to the fact that it can often be difficult to identify a lack of attraction, whatever that might be, without context. So, how easy was it for you to kind of come to grips with being, ace spec yourself?
Yeah, this is a loaded question. This is definitely the longest note taking that I took. But chronologically, I really resonated with Mabel Luna from episode 3 a lot. Um, I remember them saying that they're really, really romantic. Like I like they love hard, and that was also me growing up too. Like I always fantasized as a kid. I read romance novels a lot. Um, the hopeless romantic, I think they mentioned too. I saw myself in a lot of relationships, but mainly with like guys that like I just like had this like really big friendship with. And I didn't really see the connection, obviously, there until later. A lot of people mentioned that on a lot of the past episodes too, that they just really would get into relationships with really close friends of the opposite sex, especially. And like mainly, it was just like, oh, kissing's fine, right? But I never really like felt comfortable going like farther than that. And I remember I actually I actually have dated someone who eventually came out as gay, and then I also dated someone who eventually came out as trans as well. So I didn't really see the correlation there, obviously, until later too. I would wear rainbows a lot too, and everybody would ask me if I was gay, like it was a bad thing. And like I'd be like, "No." But little did I know. And I really this is something really that I didn't notice until the last few years, but I was really, really into the genre of like, like the girl dresses up as the guy, like to hide their gender to like get into like guy things. Like I mean, Orange High School Host Club is a big one, but I was really more into like She's the Man with Amanda Bynes. That's one of my favorite movies. I quote it all the time. And also Hanakimi, Hanazakari no Kimi Tachi E is the J drama based on a manga. And they just recently announced an anime, and I'm really excited. This Pride Month, I'm hoping to finally get through the manga for the first time because I love the J drama. And then I got to college, and like, yeah, it was a lot of people mentioned this too, where like it definitely took a turn in college where like everything became more sexual, right? Because you're getting older. You turn 18, right? And everything is just like so uncomfortable for me. And I wrote down about episode 3, Mabeluna and Jessica mentioned being more in long-term relationships at that point. Yeah. And like feeling like why can't we love each other without all of this? Yeah. Maybe Luna mentioned the sexuals. How like the opposite of us is like the sexuals. It's so funny. Yeah, the
That was
gender swap
great.
genre. Exactly. Yeah. Oh, anonymous.
Thank you
Gift to
so much,
Scrubby.
Anonymous, for the gift sub to Shrubby Princess, one of Momo's mods. Far too kind.
Hell yeah. And then I remember Busby made an amazing point about close platonic relationships and being in the Western mindset of, well, I better date this person or else someone else will start dating them and they'll forget about me. And like the two relationships I was in before my current partner, Raf, um, was definitely like that, I think. Really close friendship, but more because of the romance. Um, but yeah, and then I met Raf, and I was really thankful for his acceptance. And I, it was weird because before I knew what asexuality was, though, I was told by someone that one of me and Shrubby's friends was ace, and I didn't really know what it meant. I think they meant arrow, to be honest. I think they meant arrow, but the terms weren't really like readily available back like before 2016-ish, I think it was. Um, I'll tell you who later, Shrubby, because I don't think you know this, but I forgot who told me this, but and I was like, oh no, that's not me. That's what I thought. And then I unfortunately worked for a convention that was on both sides of the New York and the Canadian border, and this guy who ran that was awful. Like I could go on and on about how awful he is and homophobic and everything, but he thought we were way closer than we were, and we were on our way to our first YetiCon 2016, the first YetiCon in 2016. He asked me, he pried about my like sexual relations with my partner, and it was so uncomfortable. And he made fun of me. He also made fun of my friend's marriage, um, and it really turned me off of like ever really talking to people about it. But I think like because I was forced out of me, it also didn't really help. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of BS that came with that. But thankfully, the next year it was 2017 when me and Raf's former roommate Ricky, like he's very queer. He's poly. He's pansexual. Um, it was like me and Raf and a couple of our other friends with Ricky, and we were just talking about stuff. And I found out that I was ace. Like I didn't really know that was the term for it. And Ricky taught me so much about what it is. And I kind of was like, I might be pan romantic too, I think. Um, and it also was around that time too where I remember I had a photo shoot with my friends and we were out to like eat afterwards. And I remember there was a waitress who called me he, like because I was dressed as a boy. And I felt a little weird about it, but I also was just like it's kind of interesting. You know what I mean? Um, I didn't really like being called he though. So that's what I started like being like, oh, maybe I when I do cosplay boys and like not girls, that maybe, they them's actually like it feels right. Um, like I think it's called demi girl, right? When you're like a girl, but you kind of like don't really fully feel like that. I didn't really know that term until recently though. Um, and then yeah, my partner was, of course, hesitant and embarrassed a little bit at first when we realized what, I was. I was finally like, oh my gosh, I finally have a word for it, right? But separately from that, he also has sleep apnea and he snores a lot. So he says that this saved the relationship where we actually started sleeping in separate rooms. And I actually got sleep for once. So did he. And like he has a CPAP machine that he never uses, et cetera, et cetera. You know the drill. Um, I know a lot of people have been dealing with that as of late that I know too. So and it says I wrote this note down too. Episode 2, I think Kaber and Sage mentioned about like couples sleeping in separate rooms and how it became more normalized. I remember Raf found like an article about it, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, this is us." Um, and also meeting Shrubby, who is also Ace, and our friend Annie. I think she came out as Demi when like me and her and Shrubby started hanging out a lot more. And I found a lot of camaraderie with them. Actually, Maybeluna reminds me a lot of Annie too because she's also Latina. Um, and then, yeah, I mentioned becoming more comfortable with they, them. And yeah, I think I mean, that's kind of long winded, but that's kind of how it came to be where I I feel like it was very talked about in a lot of episodes where the labels are nice to have, but it could get overwhelming, right? Like I really don't see me memorizing what exact kind of ace I am, but but having a term for it and being proud about it is also is very key. I just remember pulling into the driveway once with Raph and it was like, oh, I'm not straight, and him going, I know, was kind of like I think the day of the acceptance, right? Um,
Absolutely.
yeah. I remember we helped out for I helped run a con in 2019 and we had a beach event and it was around now, it was like during Pride. There's like a Pride parade going on that is popular in our area. And I remember one of my fellow convention staff members was like, "Oh, it's not like any of us would like be going to that anyways." Because she was worried about like the scheduling on the same day. And then me and my friend Rabbit just look at each other because like they just didn't know back then. Like I knew she was bi, she knows I'm ace, but like I think that was like we started finally being more open about it, and like they're just like, oh my gosh, like we didn't know that, and so it's hard because you don't really know who to tell at first. I mean, there's still a lot of times where like we're hanging out with normie people, we're not going to say anything about that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, finding acceptance and like joining the fruities and everything really helped a lot. Obviously, meeting you and we met in person too before too, which is
Yeah,
great.
twice.
Normies.
Yeah.
Fucking normies.
That's great.
I already know that I can swear because I watched all the other
Yes,
episodes. And
absolutely.
everybody's like, "Can we swear?" And Ty's like, "Oh yeah, hell yeah, fuck yeah."
I drop a fair number of F-bombs for emphasis, for sure, so perfectly
All
fine.
the time. Well, yeah, and even before joining the Fruities, I actually was. I think too. This is when like I started being more comfortable too. It's 2021. I was asked on a queer podcast. With the I don't know if they still do stuff, but there's a stream team called Rainbow Arcade. My friend Pants is on it. Um, and they asked me to be on it. It was like a little panel with like a few other people. Like my friend FaZe Rose, who made my Riju wig from Breath of the Wild, was also on it with me. And that was cool because I like they told us to cosplay, and I was Emil from Nier because he is canonically gay, and it was like very like, oh my god, yay, we're gay. That was really nice too. My
Laughing,
timbers shivered.
yeah, laughing at Casey's comment there. The fruities have been great, and it's so amazing to see, just how much A-spec representation there are amongst the fruities, and just
Yeah.
being a part of
Yeah,
a
it was
team.
wild,
Yeah.
like, seeing so many of us there. Like, I joined not with really low expectations because I saw Ghost followed me, and I was like, "Oh, she's also Ace. That's cool." And, but I didn't really know the extent until, like, the Fruities became a thing, and I was like, "Oh, I wonder if I could join." And, yeah, there's so many people.
So this is a podcast on asexuality and aromanticism. We have talked about, neurodivergence at times. I myself am,
Mhm.
but yeah, the focus of the podcast isn't necessarily neurodivergence, though there's a large overlap between neurodiverse communities and the ASPEC community. So it certainly comes
Yes.
up from time to time, for sure.
Sorry, I gotta burp again. Okay.
Absolutely, Casey. Lots of great ace rep. Also, a number of people that are arrow
Mhm.
as well. Exo Peachy, myself, Ghost being Aerospec,
Mhm.
and there might be a couple more folks as well. Yeah, there's definitely a couple others I know for sure that are, Aerospec. So it's awesome to see that Aerospec representation as well.
Oh, yeah. Fuck
Heck
yeah,
yeah.
if you will.
That's amazing. 18 years of experience doing
Nice.
drag. That's exciting. It's also the perfect time of year for it too.
Mhm.
Are you booked? Are you booked with a lot of performances right now?
Ace, arrow,
Yeah,
autistic, agender.
yeah. I
Yeah, don't you do you have ADHD too, Shrubby?
I remember.
I have, like I feel like everybody's got a little bit of something, you know?
Yeah, I'm quadruple ace. I can't say agender because I don't identify with that label. However, I am definitely under the non-binary umbrella somewhere. Um, but I know
Hi,
that.
Nick. All my
Too
mods are
funny.
here.
Yeah. I know that Sage sometimes refers to themselves as a quintuple um,
Mm,
instead of, a triple A battery, a quintuple A, you know, ace, arrow, autistic, ADHD, and agender. So they've got all the A's.
damn.
Yeah, I'm ADHD myself.
It reminds me of the DDR. I don't know if they still have this in the newer ones, but, like, the triple A, oh god, I got it, like, once or twice in my life, and it was, like, the best achievement ever.
I remember there was I don't know if you've seen the comic, but it's thank you so much for the
Oh, thank you
5
so
gift
much.
subs to Hamet Jawan, Warrior for Life 9761,
One.
self-titled. Yuki, is it Yuki
He might cheat. He might cheat.
Imichi? And of course, Momo herself. Thank you so, so much. Far
Thank
too
you.
kind. There was a comic. I know it was posted. That comic was posted. Not that exact one, but the same art style was posted in the Fruities Discord recently. And it's like little circles of different pride flags. And
Mm.
this one was the focus was aspec identities. And in this particular episode or this particular comic, it was A is for ally, and you see a battery coming out with like a sword at the person saying that. And I never clued in at first as to why a battery was coming out. And then I saw the arrow ace flag and the agender aspect, and I'm like, oh, AAA battery. That totally makes sense.
Oh, that's funny. Yuki Hime. Yeah, Hime is princess.
Thank you for letting me
She
know.
just
I
has
had no idea how to pronounce that.
I actually did not know that lore about the chi.
I did not know that. So asexuality is often known as the invisible orientation, a phrase coined by Julia Sandra Decker just over 10 years ago now. And unfortunately, as we know, and we've seen time and time again, erasure of ace identity, arrow identity is unfortunately extremely common. And unfortunately, owing to the fact that, it's not exactly easy to know if somebody's ace or arrow without some sort of other contextual clue, it's often very difficult to find aspec focused communities unless you know where to look. How has this invisibility and erasure impacted your journey?
Yeah, I feel like well, yeah, obviously, like we said, joining the Fruities definitely was like eye opening. It was like, oh my gosh, there's more of us. But yeah, like I said, meeting Shrubby definitely helped. But even like finding out about asexuality from my former roommate really was like finally something clicked. Um, there's also, I think, oh yeah, I feel like I already went over all that with the whole being on that panel with Rainbow Arcade, and um, it was kind of like a big Twitch coming out thing because I feel like I didn't really talk about it much on Twitch until I was on that panel, and then it's just kind of like the floodgates just kind of open there. I know a lot of people too, like a friend of mine also doesn't really talk about herself being ace, and I remember just like I always lurk in her streams, and I remember just lurking once when she was just yapping, and then she mentioned she was ace, and I was like, oh wait, what? Because it's like you don't really talk about it really much um until like it comes up in conversation, I feel, because it like I said, it's like hard to really talk about um until someone says something weird, and then like you can use it as an excuse if you get uncomfortable, I guess. um i I didn't really come out to I don't know if my dad knows, but I've definitely come out to my mom before, and I think it was after I felt more comfortable changing my gynecologist because I the one person who did talk to me like you've mentioned before a lot in your in the past episodes about people being like, oh, what if you just wait to find the right person, things like that. One person has done that to me, and it was my gynecologist because he was an old, stanky ass white guy. And the only reason I had him was because he was my mom's. And it was just like, oh, I'll just go to him. But every time I would go, it was like I would cry. It was awful. Not to mention their billing part of the company was so awful, like that even my mom contemplating changing doctors as well. Yes, like it's gosh, he was awful. So judgmental. And he would have me come every year. It's like, why? Why? And yeah, I quickly realized, I'm not going to take this anymore. So I found a really um, accepting gynecologist company that even had like, pronouns and what is your sexuality and like a text box, not even like like radio buttons full of stuff that your, specific thing probably wouldn't be on there, but like there is a text box there. So I was like, oh, that's cool. And they put me with like someone who takes a lot of asexual patients, and I love her so much. She's the best. So I really think that helped me find more confidence in also mentioning to my mom. The first time I came out to my mom, she kind of laughed at me. And it was like kind of awkward. But then I told her the next time it came up in conversation how that made me feel, and she apologized. So that was really nice. But she's kind of like it's hard with my parents because they're super conservative. They're not like yay Trump, but they're like, oh, he's president, so that's fine. Things will get better. No, they won't. um, but it is nice that they are still, accepting. It's just, the overall viewpoint is not there. But I feel like with my mom, it's more of like she's brainwashed because she's not really that bright. I hate to say it, but she's not very bright. She's just kind of brainwashed. So I felt more comfortable telling her at least so that she knows why I get put on anxiety meds every time I have to go get a PAP. So,
Unfortunately, the number of doctors that have absolutely zero understanding or are vehemently anti ASPEC is
yeah,
really, really sad. I know that Sarah Cosgriff and others talked about it, just how poor the medical community is when it comes to understanding of ASPEC identity. And I've talked about it before. My own experience, I had a doctor write sexual dysfunction disorder when I declared
yeah,
that I was ace and I'm not sexually active. Just zero understanding whatsoever.
yeah. It's awful. I think for like specific reasons, I think she puts low libido on my thing, but she always tells me, "Don't worry, I just have to put that there." I know it's not true, but that's what I guess they have to select, unfortunately. But yeah, at least she's super chill and um understanding. No.
Yeah,
That's
that's all
all
that's
like
necessary.
yeah, really. Hi, Duke.
Yep. So true, Duke. So true.
Oh, yeah, there's also, speaking of, like, coming out and things like that, I've been at my current job, 10 years this month, actually. Wow. Um, and I did have a little tidbit about that. Um, I only work with 2 other women. They're older than me. One is actually retiring this year, and then it'll just be me and one other, which is sad. But we had another female that worked with us who unfortunately left last year. But I really thought I felt bad because I really wish that we connected a little bit more on this kind of thing because she mentioned once about having issues, and she needed to find a new one. And I recommended her mine because like I didn't like go into detail of like why I love her so much. I just was like, oh yeah, she's like super not she is not judgmental. Like she's very understanding and like open for like anxiety and things like that. And because I knew that this coworker, of mine was had ADHD. So I didn't know until she left because me and the two other ladies that still work with me were talking about, like, it came up in conversation about doctors and gynecologists and stuff like that. And like, I felt like this was necessary to say. I finally came out to them saying that I was ace, and they were like, "Oh, so was she." And I was like, "Fuck." I had this feeling she was, but I didn't want to like be like, "Hey, are you also ace?" you know? So it's like, I really wish that I knew that, but it's okay. I have her contact info. But yeah. Any chance of you being pregnant? No? Yeah.
Yep. It's frustrating every time. There's like 10 questions about that. And it's just no, 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 no. Every time.
Yep. Yeah, you get a new medication and it's like, "Are you planning to get pregnant?" Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Hi, Juan.
Welcome in, Juan. How are you doing? So, asexuality, also aromanticism as well, are greatly, greatly misunderstood all across the board. What are some of the most frustrating misconceptions that you've come across that you've experienced? I know you've talked about some of them already.
Yeah. Definitely. Like, I think the worst though was the forced um information about my sex life with that guy that thought he was way closer to me than he was, that ran that con that I unfortunately helped with. Because that was awful. That really, like, that kind of put a damper on a lot of stuff for me. Um, Thankfully, that was like 9 years ago now, and I can look back on it and be like, well, at least everybody I know now hates him. So, like, we've kind of shunned him out of our local like cosplay communities and things like that. He's pretty well known to be a predator and someone to stay away from. But it was a really awful experience because like he also like we also got stopped at the border and he blamed it on my last name. I'm Arab, so you can imagine with my dad being fully Arab, Lebanese to be exact. I have a very Arab surname, and I was like, dude, I've been over the border so many times. Even like in college, I would go to Canada like every month with people who aren't even American citizens, like because I was going to college. So, of course, there's a lot of international friends that I had, and we would go over the border all the time. Like, it can't be my last name. And then I found out it was probably due to him being on like some kind of list, and they probably thought he was kidnapping me or something. So, because he had the con on both sides of the border, making him a very big target of issues. So, but yeah, that definitely put a damper on me even researching anything about myself and why I was like this. But yeah, it all worked out in the end, you know? Yeah, exactly. Canada doesn't care what your name is. I know. Yeah, exactly. Like I really did think it was my fault though for a lot because like he was such a gaslighter. It was awful. And like him degrading my friend's marriage and everything too. And he even he had put himself on speakerphone, or he put someone who was a con chair of another con on speakerphone that he was friends with, and I could never look at him ever the same anymore either, and just talking shit about people and things. And then suddenly it's like he'd be like, "Oh, by the way, Momo's here." And the guy on the phone was just like, "Oh shit, what?" Like, I was like, "I cannot be here. Like, I want to go home." It was awful.
Oh, I'm so sorry. That sounds awful.
It all worked out though, because like I said, my former roommate is very um, in a lot of queer communities and really helped me a lot find the terms and everything that I was looking for. So, and then meeting more people who also are
Absolutely.
like me. Yeah. Oh yeah, not even just the fruities and the and that panel I was on, but also I joined peer to peer as well. Do you know about peer to peer?
Through the um, is that the
Like
one that,
Trans Lifeline, I
yeah,
think,
through the Trans
runs it.
Lifeline? Yeah.
Yeah, I joined that actually too a while ago. It's cool because like I can even put like Middle Eastern on there. Like if people are looking for like specific traits or identities. That was really cool. I actually know a streamer that found me directly from peer to peer, who's very big activist on Blue Sky. And like I wouldn't have met them if it wasn't for peer to peer, which is really cool. And then Shania finding me last year too. So I joined the Ace and Arrow raid train in October. That was really cool. I was scared though because I was the first person. Like I started the train and I was like, oh no. But everyone was so nice.
Yeah,
It's a fun time.
the fact that, we were able to, many of us from the Ace and Arrow raid train in June last year, were able to, have another gathering, another raid train for Ace
Mhm.
folks during Ace Week in November. That was absolutely
It
amazing.
was November, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't join the June one because of YetiCon, and then we had the Fruities one, which is the same this year, but I just saw Shania said that she won't be making
Yeah,
it
unfortunately.
this year. But
Or
it's fine. We'll just do another one in fall.
it was actually, sorry, it was the end of October, yeah. October
Well, it
19th
was
to
October.
25th. Yeah. October 19th to
Nice.
25th this year. So
Yeah.
it's the end of October.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately there are a number of places and a number of folks that there are issues, and that
Yeah.
discrimination, racial discrimination does happen here. And it's not the utopia that everybody says it is, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there's so many people that I know that ask me about that too, and it's like I mean, it's the same everywhere. You're not gonna it's not really much different besides like it's a little more expensive obviously in Canada because your dollar. I feel so bad for your dollar. Like every time I go over there, it's like this is awful. I come back with so much money left over because I like overestimate.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking back in the day when it was like 1 to 1, right? I still in that old mindset from forever ago. Um, but yeah, I do have to say though, I feel like people are nicer about cosplay in Canada. Like normies are nicer about cosplay in Canada. I feel like they're like, if they're very curious, they'll come up to you and ask like, "Oh, is there an event going on?" I feel like a lot of the time before it got mainstream in America, people would just scowl at you and be like, "Ew." Like, "What are you doing?" And be really rude, but I feel like it's more normalized now though, so it's not as often anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've noticed that, so many people will cosplay, just out and about, even
Yeah.
around here. And most people are, you know, pretty chill and happy with it. So that's one nice thing is, I see that happening more and more. Lore curators comment about Northern Canada being really, really expensive is a really big issue.
Mm.
Like, if you go to the northern communities where they're fly in, fly out only,
Oh,
it will
yeah. I mean,
cost you,
YetiCon is up there.
yeah, it will cost you in like Nunavut, um,
Yeah.
$12 for like a little tiny thing of soy milk. Anything with any mass to it is just outrageous. Like, a 12 pack of Coca Cola, $80
Oh my
because it's all
god.
flowing in by plane.
That's insane.
Yeah, so there are huge poverty issues that arise because of the Fact that there's so little infrastructure up north and everything has to be flowing in and air freight's
That makes sense
expensive.
though. Yeah, because like I know so many friends that um they have trouble finding rides like from Toronto to YetiCon because it's like an hour north.
Hmm.
And the closest airport is Toronto, right?
Hmm.
So like you're gonna have to figure out how to get there regardless because it's in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, the public transport outside the GTA is absolutely terrible. And if you want to get to northern
Yeah.
Ontario, like past Sudbury, good luck. There's nothing. Because the Greyhound
Right.
unfortunately shut down, no longer
Oh
operates in
no.
Canada. There are a couple of bus lines that have bought out some of the routes in southern Ontario, so you can, if you want to shell out a bunch of money, find some bus connectivity to other parts of southern Ontario. It's not great, but northern Ontario, good luck. There's nothing.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's just a wilderness out there. Like our me and Shrubby's and Yuki's friend Dave, we always would travel to YetiCon together and he had awful cars. Awful, shitty ass cars. And I'm so glad he has an SUV this year. Like it's like thank God because like going on the gravel road like near the resort was awful. I remember the first time I went with him, like I thought we were going to die. Just absolutely atrocious.
I remember one year we took a uh, field school or a field trip basically to Tofino on the west coast of Vancouver Island, because at the time I was living in Vancouver.
Oh yeah,
And
you used to
there
live
was
in
a
Vancouver.
massive rainstorm that had just occurred, and we had like flooding in parts of Vancouver Island, and it washed out part of the um, dirt forestry roads connecting Tofino to the rest of Vancouver Island. And literally, there were like massive crevices in the middle of the road. And we
Oh
barely
my
like made
god.
it across them in this school bus that was taking us there. It was so bad
Oh
that the
no.
bus basically said, "Yeah, we're not coming back to get you. You're on your own."
You're stranded?
We did what we ended up doing was taking a there's a ferry connection between Tofino and Port Renfrew. So you can take a ferry on the west coast of Vancouver Island to Port Renfrew, and we had a bus come meet us in Port Renfrew, which added a
Oh,
huge
okay.
amount of time to the trip, of course. But yeah,
Yeah.
the getting to parts of Canada, and that's Vancouver Island, and that's Northern Ontario. You
Yeah.
go to you go to Nunavut, there are no roads. You literally have to
Oh yeah,
fly
I
in.
love that name. Nunavut. Yeah, Nunavut.
So there are major, um, you know, inequity issues relating to food security in the Canadian
Yeah.
North that are really difficult to address because there is no easy way to get food in. And the folks there do get some subsidy, but definitely not anywhere near enough to cover the exorbitant food prices that they are having to
Yeah.
deal with. And then you factor in climate change and the fact that
Mhm.
the Inuit way of life, the Inuit way of existence is rapidly disappearing. How do you
Yeah.
afford to feed yourself? It's a real big problem. I know we got a little off topic there, but it is something, worth talking about and reminding folks that there are huge
Mhm.
inequity issues that exist here.
Yeah, and warning everybody in the area too that there is wildfire stuff happening early this
Absolutely.
year. So wear your masks outside.
Oh, absolutely. No need to
Yeah.
apologize, lore curator. Huge. It's an important issue to talk about, so I'm perfectly happy talking about it.
Yeah.
And it's a thing that a lot of people don't realize or don't think about. So it's important to talk about. On that note
Yeah, Maya.
about wildfires,
I
um,
forgot Emma's also Canadian.
yeah, I just came back from Saskatoon in Saskatchewan, And right now, northern Saskatchewan, northern Alberta, and large parts of Manitoba are burning, and there's like
Mhm.
massive wildfires and states of emergency occurring. The day I left Saskatoon, the air quality health index was 366, which is on the order of what Mexico City would be on an average day.
Jeez.
It was the worst in all of Canada and the US. Thank you so much for gifting that sub to Emma, Duke. You are far too kind. Thank you so much. It was the worst air quality in all of North America, excluding Mexico. And they had a advisory I found out later saying if you have to be outside, you should be wearing a respirator or KN95 mask. I get to Toronto, see that, and I'm like, well, I certainly didn't have one.
Oh, you didn't bring one. Oh no.
I had like, a medical mask, but not a KN95
Yeah.
respirator. Um, so
I
yeah,
usually when I, like, go on planes well,
yeah,
I've only been on a plane once since
yeah,
the pandemic, but, like, I invested in a flow mask, and I have to
yeah.
say it's, like, fucking amazing.
I
But
need
if you
to.
cannot afford that,
Yeah,
there's also, like I always carry even a KN95 because it's
yeah,
almost as good as an N95,
yeah. I
and they
should.
come in
I
so many
should
colors now.
exactly. I should pick some up. I definitely should.
Really
I
good investment because they 'cause they're pretty cheap too because
yeah,
I wear one, like, all week, and then I throw it out, and then I
yeah,
just grab another one, whatever
definitely.
color I'm feeling that week.
Because the ones that I currently have are definitely not good enough. They're just your
Yeah,
cheap medical grade
the
ones
medical
that
ones.
don't do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's something I should look into getting, especially for travel, because
Mhm.
being in the plane for that period of time can be really gross.
Yeah, it's like a vacuum, it's scary. Hi, Busby!
Busby, happy Pride! Thank you for
I
joining
mentioned
us.
you I mentioned you a lot because I watched, all the previous episodes, and there's a lot of things I connected with you on.
Yeah, Busby's had some really good comments both here in the chat as well as it was a real pleasure chatting with them with Quartzy et al. A while back.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we'll get Quartzy on here again. Faye was lovely to chat with. So hopefully later this month we'll get a chance to have Quartzy back. Love all the emotes.
They're so cute.
By the way, Quartzy was mentioning it last night in Faye's stream. Um, Busby's contributed a bunch of really cute Pride emotes to a free Pride emote pack for Twitch. So
Oh, yeah,
I
I
can
saw that posted in the Fruity server
we should
the
post
other
that
day.
in the chat here. I have one of Quartzy's. The boba emote from Quartzy I added. It's so cute. I also added this Aeroace one. Thank you so much for
So
gifting
cute.
a sub to Busby. Far too kind. So yeah, I've got that Aeroace rainbow, and then I've got the boba one that Quartzy made, which is super
That's
cute.
so cute.
Yeah, almost at 40. That's wild. I never ever expected to be anywhere near that. That's for sure. You are far too kind, Duke. Far, far too kind.
Open up those emote slots.
Absolutely, got to fill them in. I filled in the rest of the animated ones. I got. I might add one more. Gonna add one more emote because I think we've opened up another static emote slot. So I'll be adding another one of the free Pride emotes to that one.
Yeah.
Just got to figure out. I'll probably grab one of Busby's. Busby's got some really cute ones.
Yeah, those are so cute. Oops, all pride. I like the name.
That's a great name. So we have about 2 minutes here until an ad break. Um, so I don't necessarily want to start a new question at this point,
Mm,
since I don't want everybody to be interrupted by the ads. Do you want to take a short break here? And
sure. I need to fix my wig cap anyways because it's
yeah,
about to fall off my head.
perfect timing. So why don't we go on a very short break here and be back in about 5 minutes? See you on the other side. Welcome back, folks. And welcome in, Quartzy. We were just
Hello. Hi,
chatting about
Quartzy.
you and the absolutely amazing boba emote that you created as part of the free Pride emotes pack. And Duke gifting the gift sub to Quartzy. Thank you so much, Duke. We are now at 40. 40 subs. That is wild. Thank you so
Heck
much, Duke.
yeah. Yeah, this whole pack is super cute. I love all these.
Yeah, they're amazing. I wish I had more space to include them all. Because I really like these gyroid ones. So I'm like, do I want to replace those? Because those are all really cute. But I also want to include more from the Artist and Makers Pride Emotes pack. So, heck yeah. That will be so
Aw,
cool to
cute.
see, Quartzy. I can't wait for that. That'll be really exciting to see.
I saw like a really big abundance of like Pokemon Pride fan art in the last couple days on Blue Sky. So cute.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Quartzy. Thank you. It's a wig. I wanted to be purple for the Ace Pride, you know? Actually got recently I added another chronic illness to the list. I got diagnosed with alopecia
Oh,
recently. So I'm like, good thing I have so many wigs.
yeah, I'm going through hair loss myself right now. And it's really concerning. I've been losing hair for like a month. I remember
Oh
wearing like a
no.
hairband, taking it off, and this huge like clump of hair just fell out. And I was like, what the heck? And then ever since
Oh
then, like I
geez.
run my hand through my hair and it's like coming out every time. And I've noticed
Awful.
some pretty significant thinning at the top of my head. And I'm like, I just spent a year growing out the hair.
Right?
No.
That's why I started cutting mine short too, because I'm like, oh, maybe it'll grow out faster. And it does, but like it's still like it's been thin for forever. So I kind of knew this was coming. My mom
Mm-hmm.
has really thin hair too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I
I'm
feel like it's
sure.
definitely stress. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
always stressed. I always
Yeah.
said, "Oh, I'm not stressed," and then I realized what anxiety was, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
"No, yeah, I guess I am
Mm-hmm.
always stressed."
Yeah, and also just everything going on in the world and that
Yeah.
stress. Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of
My 3
stressors.
long strands likes me.
Mood.
Literally. Yeah, Shrubby's hair is gorgeous. Shrubby, when she dyes her hair, it's, like, incredible. It's so cool. Just chop her just chop her hair off, make it a wig, and then she'll grow it back in, like, a month.
Absolutely. The PhD in my case certainly has played a big role. It's certainly, I like to
Um,
think it's a big reason for all the grays I've developed in the last couple of years.
Yeah, my brother started graying in like his 20s, so I knew that was coming for me too. I feel like I don't really pluck too much unless it's like super obvious. Like cuz I usually get in my sideburns.
Yeah, I've
Um
noticed really a lot of grays around there.
yeah, I think that's where it starts.
Hmm. But I definitely got the salt and pepper look now.
You're gonna rock it.
Yeah, absolutely. It actually looks pretty good. But and I got like these two wispy strands of full like gray on either side.
I would that's what I wish I hope it ends up happening to me because I really hate the one strand every now
Hmm.
and then. It's really weird looking. I'm like, ah,
Uh,
just give me a streak already.
exactly. So media representation. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I have a whole thing for that too.
Awesome. So, we've talked about it many times in the podcast about the fact that aspec representation in mainstream media is not very good, to say the least.
Yeah.
Do you have any representations in mainstream media that you can relate to that you find it all reflective of what we talk about here in the podcast?
So I'm not sure if they're really good. I mean, they're not really good, but they're stuff that nobody's talked about before.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so 'cause I know there's like the usual, like, I know SpongeBob was mentioned, Jessica Rabbit, Alistair, Sheldon, Cooper. I still have to watch BoJack Horseman. I know
Yeah.
it's on my list. And Marilyn Monroe. I don't remember if anybody mentioned that, but I remember seeing possibly she was Ace. But Shrubby reminded oh, yeah, Sex Education, I need
Yeah.
to watch that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was also mentioned a couple times. Um, Shrubby told me that Luffy is canonically, Arrow Ace,
Oh.
according to the creator of One Piece. Yeah, neither of us are really super into One Piece, but she has a lot of friends that are really into One Piece, and she sent me a screen cap of, like, an interview that the creator had about him. Yeah, I had no idea either, and I'm like, man, like as I watched the live action, and I absolutely loved it. So I started watching the anime, and it was pretty accurate. I'm not gonna lie, like they did a really good job. Um, and I was like, I feel like the character I can relate to the most is Luffy, and I didn't really realize like connotation wise because I'm super early into the show still. But yeah, that was interesting to me. Me and Trubby also headcanon Kiryu Kazuma from Yakuza as Ace, at least Demi. I strongly believe he is on the Ace spectrum in some way. Um, and I've played all the games that he is in, so I feel he really did like the one girl in 2 a lot, and I really thought that that was gonna be more of a thing they would mention later on, but they didn't. But definitely, I feel like he is on there. He's way too uninterested in people. It really, yeah. That's what Shrubby was saying. Yeah. Oh, is there a character from Shira who is Ace? I need to look this up. And
Yeah, me too.
Shrappa from Shira. Oh, the purple one. That's very iconic.
The purple. That's maybe a
Cool.
clue.
I've never seen this character. Because I was thinking of the blue one. I've seen the blue one around, like the mermaid looking person. But I've never seen this purple one.
Nor
That's
am I.
cool.
I'll have to look that up. I'll
Cool
have to look into
one.
that. Thank you.
Cows.
Always love hearing, new recommendations because I miss out
Yeah.
on a lot of the anime and animated series, unfortunately.
There's also So I have a whole list of people on 90 Day Fiance that are definitely demi, but they never fucking say the word.
Mm-hmm.
It's so aggravating to me. It's like they really do like to put their LGBTQIA rep like every now and then. And it's like it's always the gay, it's always the lesbian, it's always the bi, right? Or right now we have a thruple and they're not great, but better than the last time they had a poly relationship on the show like 3 years ago, 4 years ago. It
Mm-hmm.
was awful. But there's 3 certain people that have been on it that I do believe are demi. Um, one of them is awful, and it's Gino, and if you watch 90 Day Fiancé, you know what I mean. He's awful. I don't wanna go too much into him, but I think he is, and that's the only thing I can be a little bit empathetic with him about. Otherwise, he's awful. Um, there's another guy that's not really great named Tim, but I always sympathize with him because I feel like every single time he's dating someone on these shows, these spin-offs, etc., he is so ridiculed and everybody thinks he's gay because he's never interested in the hot AF women that he dates and he never sleeps with them. So they come after him about his sexuality and that made me so fucking mad. He's been on the show for a while too. I think the first time he was on it was like I think they said it was like 7, 8 years ago now. So he's been on and off this series for a while. There's an article that came out too recently that I saw that he literally basically said he was demi, but it didn't say the word. That is really unfortunate that they just shy away from saying what it actually is. But it was because he's on a new show that they're starting called Hunt for Love, where they bring some of the people who are on the shows that are single now back and they like kind of like make them date each other and other people that they randomly put in this like resort. And so there was this article that came out about him and he said something like, everybody comes after me about my sexuality, but like really like I'm fucking 40 something now. Like I if I'm not interested in someone, like if I don't think it's going to go very far, I'm not going to be sexual with them. Like that's it. And I'm like, let him say he's demi.
Yeah, of course.
It's so annoying.
There's a lot of kind of queer elements to Star Trek. Quartzy bringing up that Data from Star Trek
Oh,
possibly.
Data. I
Yeah.
loved that guy. He's the one with the thing
Yeah,
on his eyes, right?
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, I liked him. I mean, I don't remember much, but I remember my parents watched Next Generation and I remember him. Oh, is that someone else? Oh, Data's the android.
Right, yeah.
Oh. But they're BFFs. Oh, I probably like melded them together. Osmosis to them.
Yeah, that's the thing is a lot of characters that we think could be Ace or Arrow are generally autistic coded. And yes,
Yeah.
there's a lot of overlap in the community between the autistic community and the ASPEC communities. That doesn't necessarily mean that they are ace. However, we can definitely read into them being, ASPEC for sure. Or just, desperately grasping for those, you know, snippets of representation.
Mhm. The single unit.
Yeah.
There was also this girl that was on 90 Day only once, and she was like one. I think she was the first woman love woman WLW woman love woman. I think she was the first. Like I think she was bi, and the girl she was dating is a lesbian from Australia, and she herself is from New York City or something in the tri-state, like down there. And she's like a YouTuber. Her name is Stefanka. She I believe is also demi because it was like during the lockdowns and everything, she was asked back on this like special show. I think it was called like 90 Day Bears All. And she literally explained demisexuality and just didn't say the word. Like I think she, because she is queer herself, I think she definitely obviously would know the term, but she probably was like, nah, I don't need to say it to like, you know, live television. Like nobody's gonna fucking care. you know? So the only thing I didn't like about her was that I mean, it's kind of funny now, but she actually made this is gonna sound stupid, but she put her farts in jars and made them NFTs. She sold them as NFTs. And you know what? Anything for money during lockdowns, I guess. Other than that, I love this girl. She's funny. She's
Wow.
great.
Yeah, exactly. Farts are a lot better for NFTs than stealing art and selling them as NFTs.
True.
Absolutely.
It's very true. She's not one of those people. Yeah. It was an actual physical thing. Exactly. Yeah. Rich dumb people will buy stuff. They see her on 90 Day. Oh, I need to get a piece of that fart. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I respect the hustle.
Absolutely.
There's also the last one I have on my list is there. Well, it's kind of like similar to the whole like, okay, like you're a robot. That makes sense. But not robot per se, but dragons. The dragons in Drakengard are actually canonically asexual. Doesn't really like matter to the story of Drakengard and Nier, but I do know that that is mentioned somewhere. I think it's like in the official guides or something. Um, but yeah, there's like, I mean, there's really good queer rep in Nier. Like Kaine and Emil are canonically queer in ways. Like Emil is gay, and tiny spoiler, but Kaine is intersex. And I think the way Yoko Taro like reveals their stories in like the visual novels, I think is really, really beautiful. And I really appreciate with the replicant remaster that he kept them that way. Cause I was like, oh, how is this going to translate to a remake and modern graphics and everything? But he kept them visual novels, and I think it's best read so that you can picture their backstories better. Um, so Dragon Yo, Dragon Tales. Not, I just thought of the dinosaur show for a second with the kid that's like, not the mama. But that's dinosaurs, not dragons.
Of course, dragons are a well-known kind of
Made
ace
me
meme
forget.
these days. But yeah, Land Before
I
Time.
love,
I loved that
I
growing
love
up. It
Land
was one
Before
of my
Time.
favorites growing up as a kid.
Here we go on together. That song makes me cry every time. Go you, Diana Ross. Hmm, so good. Yup, yup, yup. Poor Ducky. I feel like as I grow older, I'm so much more relatable to Petrie because he's like super anxiety centered. Like the giraffe that David Schwimmer plays in Madagascar. Maurice, no, not Maurice. Sorry, Maurice is the koala. What is shoot? What is no? What is David Schwimmer's character's name? Giraffe Madagascar. What is his name? Melman. There's too many M's. There's too many M characters. Mort, Maurice, Melman. There's too many M's. I get their names confused. Well, Mort is always going to be the little one. I cosplayed Mort for a hot second before. We don't talk about that time, but yeah. But yeah, like the anxiety coded characters. Mm, so relatable now. There's also I did write something about like it's like a media and misconception topic. Um oh, that Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so that ace people aren't into like dark media, like seinen, like genre stuff that might have a lot of like sexual stuff in it. Because I'm super like I have friends like Shrubby I know is really into Game of Thrones. I personally am not a fan, but I think not even just because of all the sex that's in that show. I just found it boring because it's a lot of political drama, and if there's too much political drama and not as much action, I just can't get into it. But like I said, I'm into Drakengard, and especially Drakengard 3 is super sexual. Like incredibly sexual. Like people go into Nier and Drakengard thinking that Nier Automata is going to be sexual and it's not because they're fucking robots, so it's not going to be. But like Drakengard 3, if you want something sexual in the Drakengard and Nier universe, it is Drakengard 3. And it's but I really love it. So it's like I think that's a common misconception is that oh, you're ace, you're not into that kind of stuff, right?
Very common misconception. Just
Yeah.
because you have, limited to no sexual attraction doesn't necessarily mean that, you wouldn't be interested in, for some folks, they're sex positive and,
Mhm.
under the right circumstances with the right person, they're sex positive. That's perfectly, that can be, part of their, experience. But unfortunately, the media always pretty much says if you're ace, you're sex negative, you're sex
Yeah.
repulsed, and nothing else. There's no nuance to it whatsoever. Yeah, sex favorable, exactly. Sex positive is the overall. How do you feel about sex in general? Sex favorable is how do you feel about yourself in sex situations?
Yeah, me reading fanfic smut 24/7.
Mood.
Yeah.
I always, it's a very common. Even though I've talked about the fact that sex favorability and sex positivity are different, I confuse them
Mhm.
still myself from time to time.
Yeah,
So
me
thanks
too.
for
Yeah.
catching that.
Favorable is when it's you,
Yes, and
and then
positivity is generally in
positive is
society.
general, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah. Quartzy mentioned Faye was writing fanfic smut in Fair's formative years. And that was
Maybe
actually a,
Shrubby has read some of yours.
yeah, Faye read one of the fanfics on stream as a goal, as a dono goal.
I remember iZombie also had something like that where she had people like read certain snippets of like fanfic for like audio alerts on her stream. I don't think she has them anymore, but do I want to see two old gay men boink and doink each other? I just want to see them kiss. Severance. Oh my god, well, I mean this is an ace representation, but the oh my god, the gay representation in Severance came out of nowhere for me and I loved it so much. I'm so obsessed with them. Everyone should watch Severance. It's so good.
I still can't get over Shrubby Princess's comments. It's great. I love that.
Me and Shrubby cosplay so many like same-sex duos together. It's great. Like we are always like gay ships a lot of the time.
So thinking kind of along the lines of amatonormativity and allonormativity, reminding folks that amatonormativity is a term that describes the assumption that everybody desires to be in a coupled romantic and monogamous relationship, while
Mhm.
allonormativity is the assumption that everybody is allosexual, i.e., that they experience sexual attraction, and the related assumption is that they desire to be in a sexual relationship, and that is the default norm in society. Kind of thinking about these assumptions in society, the themes of allonormativity, metanormativity, how does your lived experience as somebody who's ace, how has this influenced the relationships you've been in, and what have you learned from being in those relationships?
Hmm. Well, I did, yeah, I sorry, I kind of mentioned a lot of that already with the I think especially with the whole helping run a con and having that beach event at on the same day as the Pride parade, and just being like, oh yeah, like, well, it's not like any of us would go to that anyways, and then me and Rabbit looking at each other like, oh, they don't know that we're queer. Uh-oh. Just kind of like, mm. Because, like, yeah, like, I mean, she's married and she's been married for like 15 years, and then me and Raph have been together 10 years now. At the time it was less than that, obviously, for both of us, but I think that's really like it's hard because especially when it's like normies that just don't know. If you're not, especially if you're not like super loud about it. Because back then I was not at all. um And then, like, I mean, I really give a lot of props to this podcast because I learned so much. It's a little bit off topic, but still related. I didn't know what QPRs were until I was listening to this, and it's queer platonic relationships. If people in chat don't know, um, because actually, um, my friend who is married, I believe, is technically in one where like she is really close with a cis guy who is, and they're both bi, but she's married, but they are seen so much together, and she's seen without her husband and her son a lot of the time in public, and with this friend of ours instead a lot. And so a lot of people like would come to me asking, is she poly? Like, is there a poly thing going on here? And it's like, and I think because I'm ace, I feel like it's easy for me to understand more because like I know they're not sexually together. You know what I mean? And like it's not like, a matter of believing or whatever, but like I feel like because I'm ace, I understand that kind of relationship a little better. I didn't know what like I feel like that term QBR is like it's something I can actually teach people now. Like
Mm-hmm.
this is a thing that it has a name that like I don't even know if they know what a QPR is, but but now I can actually like tell people that that's a thing. I have another friend that was technically in one for the last year. Unfortunately, not anymore. But they lived together. They took care of each other, both gay men, and they weren't sexual or romantic, but they lived with each other, took care of each other. And I strongly believe that was also a QPR. So yeah, it's interesting. Now I have a name for it.
Absolutely. And, I think as Ace, as Arrow folks, we're already kind of by, virtue of the fact that we don't experience, these elements of attraction that society expects us. We kind of, through our lived experiences already are predestined to challenge the societal norms around what relationships can look like. And therefore,
Mhm.
I think we are more inclined to think about relationships differently. And as a result, I think, these elements of relationship anarchy, polyamory, queer platonic relationships are, I think, easier for folks in our community to at least understand some aspects of just already. And so, because we're already thinking, what's the ideal relationship look like? Well, for us, for
Yeah.
many of us in the community, it's not the same as what the typical relationship looks like to most of society. So
Mhm.
I think,
And it's same
there's,
thing with kids too,
yeah.
and, like, expecting, especially, seemingly cis het normal couple, and just assuming they're gonna have kids and get married, and it's like, "No." 'Cause, like, it's my brother and his partner, Ari. Ari is, NB and not out to my family, um, and doesn't talk to their family, at all. But, like, they've been together and, longer than me and Raph had, so over 11 years. I think they've been together, like, 12, 13 years. They have a house together, and they did have a dog. Unfortunately, he passed away. But, like, they don't expect to have kids. They don't want kids. And it's one of those things where, every not every family gathering, but, every other family gathering would be like, "When are you guys gonna have kids?" And it's like, they don't want kids. Like, especially in this economy too. Exactly. Like, we like our money. um, yeah, married for tax
We've talked
benefits.
about that so many times in some of the groups that we run. The married for tax benefits has come up so many times.
Mhm. That's, like, the only good thing about it, really, is the tax benefit. As a single parent, what's money like?
Yeah,
Aw.
as a PhD student, I can completely relate. What is money?
I paid my way through college, and my last tuition bill, I remember having $200, and that is why I had to sell so many of my, like, PS2 games, and I'm slowly getting what I really want back, but it's like I totally understand, like, and I can't imagine how it is going to school in this economy. I give you so much props, so many props, Ty, for pursuing your PhD, um, in this day and age. Shrubby is also going back to school too. I don't know how you guys do it. I really don't.
I always joke that most folks trying to attempt their PhD have some like secret desire for self I don't know. Something, there's something a little bit off about them. Lord knows what I mean. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah, scholarships, yeah. I was looking at my past ones, and I'm like, "Oh, damn, no wonder my first year was super cheap." I forgot about all those. But it's like, God, I look at, like, the price of going to school now, and it's asinine, just bonkers.
I recently calculated how much I've paid to my university, and it's approaching $75,000 now. And I'm just like, how am I ever going to
Canadian?
earn that back?
Oh my god.
How am I ever going to earn that back?
Oh my god.
Uh, it's horrible.
Ah, yeah. Yeah, I'm sure, like, that comes into play too, is of a downside of getting married, right? Is the whole, like, "Oh, well, since you're legally together, binded, you know, you definitely have the money because they have the money, right?" That's gotta be awful.
Hmm. Busby mentioned lots of people who originally got married for romantic reasons end up separating but stay legally married for tax and insurance reasons.
Mhm.
just because society, the government, won't recognize um, anything but a marriage as a legally binding relationship. QPRs, no,
Yeah.
nothing else other than marriage will, and common
There
law
was,
relationships.
when we were buying the house, I remember there was a thing on the form. I forgot what it was. Domestic partnership, I think it's
Mm-hmm.
called. We had to ask about that because we were
Mm-hmm.
like, is that us? But then we found out, no, you have to like legally like get that like name
Yeah. So
or whatever. And I was like, oh.
I believe in Canada, under certain circumstances, there's something called a common law partnership that if you live together long enough under certain circumstances, it will be treated similarly to,
Oh.
but I need to look into the legal characteristics of a common law partnership and see what exactly the rules are. So there are ways, you don't have to be necessarily married through a civil union, but I need to look into the what how common law partnership works and whether or not
Mhm.
a QPR would classify, because I don't think it does.
Mm.
I know you have to live together for a certain period of time. You have to be in the same house, but yeah, Shrubby mentioned we
Yeah.
have common law like that in New York, but to file taxes, you have to file at town hall, and it's
Yeah.
not the same.
So I forgot who we asked. I think it was probably our realtor. We were like, can you explain to us what this means? And
Yeah,
then we found out that you have to like actually like go to the yeah, like get it legally binded like that. I was
yeah,
like, oh, okay. So that's not us.
exactly. And I don't believe a QPR would class or fall under that necessarily.
Oh, only a year
Yeah, something
in
like that.
Canada? Oh wow.
But I know that you have to, at least in Canada, be living together for those 12
Mhm.
continuous months, or that continuous amount of time in the same
Yeah.
house. And not all QPRs would be like that, obviously.
Not well. Yeah.
Yeah, not yeah. It's very bizarre, and the rules are not super clear. So I think we're coming to the point where I want to ask, what does Ace Pride mean to you?
um, purple. Lots and lots of purple. I I mentioned to you, I didn't think I mentioned on the while we were live yet. What I really think we should definitely start when we go to pride centric events wearing ace and arrow stuff because it's so rare to find ace stuff at pride events. And I didn't really realize that until last year when I started going to more. Me and Shrubby went to a Ren fair and we actually saw one person was selling ace earrings. So she got some. But that was like the one thing that we saw, right? And I remember complaining that when we went to a pride event with the fruities in July last year, that literally I found no ace stuff. So the fact that we found that at a Ren fair was really nice, at least. Um, but yeah, and like the reason I joined the Fruities was to also um, be more open and find others like me, and that's been really really validating. Joining the Ace and Arrow Raid Train run by Shania in October, um, and doing more Pride centric stuff has been really really great. And I'm really excited because shameless plug, but I was one of the people that recommended a movie for the because as last year and this year in June, Ghost asked everybody to give movie recommendations to like for movie nights for Pride Month, and I actually submitted one not thinking she would put it on the list, but she did. Spider Lilies, hell yeah, my girl Rainy Yang. It's a Taiwanese lesbian movie, and I haven't seen it in a long time, so it'll be really fun to watch it with everybody else. But yeah. Oh, Canada's just more ace? Yeah, we'll have to go.
I'm really lucky in that almost every year, I'll unfortunately miss it this year, as I was telling you earlier, but almost every year I've gone, I've noticed at least one, if not more than one, demi flag, which is like unheard of most places. And then, of course, a number of folks from our local support group often show up to the local Pride festivals. And so, myself and others definitely are there. And, it's really lucky. I'm really lucky to see that ace and finally now also in some cases arrow representation at the Pride festivals.
Hmm.
As I was saying before, I will without doubt either wear my arrow flag or my arrow ace flag to create a conversation. So people will come up to me and be like, what is that flag? What does it mean? And I'm like, well, let me tell you. And I do that purposely to start a conversation, be that representation that is lacking, right?
Hmm.
And it's been really nice to see in Toronto, which is much bigger over the last couple of years, just the fact that every year I've gone, more and more arrow flags, more and more ace flags are appearing in the crowds. And I'm really lucky, but I know that's not the case everywhere. So
Yeah.
it's we need more representation, absolutely.
Hmm. And yeah, I feel like I am just glad that I'm not alone because I feel like when I like growing up, I just thought of, I know a lot of people mentioned this on previous episodes too that think you're broken a lot of the time. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's something wrong with you. You don't like more than just kissing and cuddling. Like that's all I want to do.
Yeah,
Um, and like I'm really glad to find more people like that and be more validated.
absolutely, absolutely. And that's what Ace in Arrow Pride looks like. It
Mhm.
doesn't have to show up at Pride festivals. It obviously can, and it's really helpful. But I love your explanation, purple, because that's what you know.
Purple.
Yeah, purple, great
Was
answer.
it, there's like that meme. Was it? I forgot what the meme was, but it's like a bunch of like purple, like I think maybe like lupus awareness, and
Mm-hmm.
then like something else, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
and then the Venn diagram, and then in the middle
Mm-hmm.
is like purple.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, is there anything else that we missed that you'd like to mention?
I think I actually read everything on this list. I'm
Awesome.
shocked that I just
Yeah.
this thing is so like I was scrolling forever. Rev's like, so what are you going to talk about? I'm like, scrolling. But yeah, that's all the stuff that I had written down. Besides, oh yeah, that Pride event that I went to with the Fruities in July. Even though there was no Ace stuff, me and Rav had this like really nice glittery, like I think it was tea, some kind of drink, but it had like edible glitter in it, and I was like, you
Hell
know
yeah.
what, this makes up for it. It
Absolutely.
was cool. It like sparkled, so cool. Ah, Yuki.
Aw. I've really enjoyed chatting with you. Uh,
Yeah, it
time
was
flew by.
really
It's already almost 8 o'clock. I can't believe it.
absolutely. I mean, that's another reason why I wrote so many things down because I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna have so much to talk about.
Absolutely. So, do you want to go on a raid at this point?
Yeah, sure.
So we'll do a spec podcast raid with a spec podcast raid with IEYE and Zelda Momoe.